Hello. There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Money Monday and a good old morning to everybody. Yeah, we got to fix Mike. I was talking and I was like, oh, yeah, there's no audio, man, but we're good now. But let's do a quick mic check and make sure everybody's good to go. And then we'll officially start jamming. We'll dive into it, talk about what we got for today, which, not a lot. My goodness, you got SPY gapping to all-time highs this morning. You got QQQ, same thing, gapping into all-time highs. So it's going to be pretty limited with what we have on the SPY and the Qs, simply because when we get to the daily time frame and we look for our higher time frame key zones, we just don't have anything. I mean, we have stuff. It's just, again, not anywhere close to where price is currently at. So it'll be pretty limited with the SPY and the Qs, but we do have a couple individual stocks that look great for today. So we'll be discussing Boeing. I think Boeing has some good short potential for today. I'll explain that. We'll talk about it. AMD, same thing. I think we could see a decent short. Tesla may set up for a long today. We'll discuss it. And then I do like PLTR short as well. I think PLTR today has really good potential to the short side. So something else we will discuss. But before we dive into it, Mike, do you have audio, dude? Just hit me with the good morning. Make sure we're good to go. And we'll dive into it, guys. And then everybody on TikTok, what's up? Good morning, TikTok traders. And who's over on the tube this morning? Do we have anybody on YouTube? Is Mr. Jared on the tube? Loud and clear. Steve, awesome. Anthony G, what's up, buddy? Good morning, man. Right. I guess it looks like we're good. We are good to go. All right, so we're going to start with our devotional, baby. Let's get it. Today was a good one. I'm still out of Matthew, but I switched it up a little bit this morning. I was inside of, was it James? Yeah, I'm in the New Testament, but I'm primarily getting through Matthew. But this morning it was from James chapter 5, verse 1. There was more to this. If you guys want more context, I can go through more of chapter 5, but this is the biggest thing that stood out to me was James chapter 5, verse 1 says, "Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming on you." And the first thing that comes to my mind is, obviously they're addressing rich people, wealthy people saying, weep and wail because you're going to be miserable, basically. And so we start to look at like wealth and riches as a bad thing. And that's a question that I used to ask a lot. And it's a question I get to this day. It's like, is it bad or wrong to be wealthy? Is it bad or wrong to want to be rich, to be financially secure? And a lot of people think that it is bad, that God doesn't want you to have riches, to have worldly wealth. That's incorrect. It's what you do with the riches and the worldly wealth. Are you going to be a good steward of those blessings and multiply those blessings? Or are you going to be selfish and hoard shit? You know what I mean? So God doesn't necessarily not want you to be wealthy, but he wants you to be a good steward of the wealth that he blesses you with to go out there and bless other people. And that's exactly what I took from this morning. So here's my takeaway. Here's the devotional. So let's sit with that for a moment. All right, this is one of those verses that it hits hard. It's direct, it's uncomfortable, and it's incredibly necessary. It's not a condemnation of wealth itself, like we just talked about, but a warning about what happens when our wealth becomes our God, or when we start to idolize wealth, right? James goes on to describe riches that rots, clothes eaten by moths, silver and gold that corrode, and in that corrosion, a testimony against the hearts that hoard instead of help. It's a bold reminder when we trust in our stuff or we trust in ourselves, we're building on sinking sand. We're not building on a solid foundation that we can continue to grow on. God's issue isn't with success. God's issue isn't with being wealthy or being rich and putting in all that hard work to attain those things that you want. The problem lies in how we earn it, number one, and then what we do with what we've been given by God, what we do with those blessings, and who we believe it all belongs to. We weren't created to rely on riches and wealth. We were designed to depend on God. When life gets hard, our default can be to grip tighter, to control, to accumulate, to try and protect what's ours. But James is calling us to something greater, a surrender of that control and being a good steward of grace, being a good steward of the blessings that God pours down upon you. So, what does this mean for us today? What are those key main takeaways from this verse? Right? Wealth is temporary. We can't take it with us. Right? It fades, it breaks down, it doesn't follow us into eternity. God is the sole owner of everything. We're just stewards of what he's given us, called us to use what we have for his glory, not for our own personal gain. And that right there is what makes being rich, wanting to be wealthy, wrong. We do it for our gain, for us to accumulate more things, for us to be happier. A lot of people accumulate wealth, right, because they want it for themselves, not to, again, glorify God through the blessings that they've received. That's the fine line you've got to draw. It's not wrong to want to be wealthy and rich and pursue a better life, but what does that turn you into? Does that take you further away from God, or does it draw you closer to God? Right, you got to ask yourself, what does that do to you? And make sure that it doesn't draw you away from God, because God's the one that's blessing you with that in the first place. Justice matters to God. How we treat others, especially those who work hard and are vulnerable, reveals the posture of our hearts. And again, dependence is strength. True security doesn't come from what's in our hands or what we obtain in this world, but who holds it for us. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have wealth. There's something deeply wrong when wealth has us. God's kingdom values generosity over greed, trust over control, and surrender over self-sufficiency. So today, ask God to examine your heart. Where have you trusted your resources more than your Redeemer? Where can you shift from ownership to stewardship? Then just take one step in that direction, or just go out there and bless somebody today. So again, today was James chapter 5. Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming on you. And again, the core takeaway from me was, again, is it wrong to be wealthy? Is it wrong to want to be rich? Is it wrong to want to chase financial freedom, financial security? It's not. But when it becomes wrong, it's, does it change who you are? Does it draw you closer to God or further away from God? Are you hoarding things and just accumulating wealth for your own personal gain? Or are you using that to glorify God, to multiply the blessings he's given you, to bless other people? So you got to ask yourself, why do you want to be wealthy? What's the intention? What's the posture of your heart? That was today's devotional, baby. I always love starting with these devotionals. Great way to start the day. But the moment you've all been waiting for. Thank you guys for your patience. Okay, we're going to dive into stocks. We're going to talk about what we got for today and get you guys dialed in. Get you guys prepared. Jason, what's up on TikTok? Good morning. Let's go. Jesus Phil, what's up, buddy? Good morning, man. Amen to that, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's dissect it. All right, let's talk about it. Spine to Qs, there's not a whole lot to talk about, so we're going to rip through this very quickly today. All right, so if you go to the daily time frame, the only level that you see here for today that's going to be relevant is going to be this zone off that prior all-time high that we had back in February. So that's literally all we can do. And we only have this zone with like 3 touch points. So it's not a strong, significant zone by any means, but it is the only area that we have to work with. All right, so it's going to be this daily zone between 612.93 to 613.24. And it's really just off that prior all-time high in the close from February 19th before that gap down drop. Right, and we do have the gap up open from Friday as well. So that's where we gap up opened there on Friday. We gap up opened at those prior all-time highs. And we saw a nice push, new all-time highs on Friday. So that's going to be like the closest zone to the downside. And I want to stress, it is not a key significant zone that you just want to trade off the second price touches it. You definitely want to have some confluence, number one, and you definitely want to wait to see how price is developing at that zone to make sure, hey, we do have some buyers stepping in. And we don't know if we're going to have buyers stepping in until we see price get to that level. We have an opportunity to read the price action at that point in time. All right, so that's going to be what we have on the daily. But when we start drilling this down into our lower time frames, we got a few other things that we can see on our lower time frame. For example, on the 1 hour time frame here on the SPY, we do have this little 1 hour demand candle. right? We have this little drop base gap up rally. So this gap up today was your rally. We had that nice little drop, little basing candle. And then again, we have our gap up today, right? So you do have some of this 1 hour demand sitting, but you have to be mindful that it was created, right? End of post-market session there on Friday, right? So look at how much volume was even traded during this time. Right? The concept of supply and demand is there were so many more buyers compared to sellers that price gapped up and pushed to the upside. So there's going to be some unfilled orders left behind because we know not all of those buy orders got filled. But if we only traded like 1,000 shares during that time, realistically, how many shares are left over to get filled? You got to ask yourself that question, right? So we can see that we had this initial drop on down. It was driven down, about 40,000 shares traded on this 1 hour candle, by the way. Right, that's a 1 hour candle. So over that 1 hour, we had about 40,000 shares traded. Right. And then here, when we base that final 1 hour candle, there was 6,000 shares traded. And then again, we just gap up open this morning. We're probably going to see something a lot better on the future side. When we go look at like ESNQ, we'll probably see something that looks a lot better, and we'll be able to really drill this down to see if that's going to be a high probability area we want to trade off of. But here's the cool thing. Not only did we see supply and demand validated because we have, right, unfilled orders left behind, there's a psychological benefit to it as well, right? Retail traders, we can identify areas of supply and demand, and we're willing to be buyers at demand and sellers at supply. So you're going to have that psychological benefit as well as, hey, the vast majority of traders see this as being demand. They're willing to buy and take action at that level, so we could still see it respected, right? So again, want to just talk about that demand zone, why it's not the most significant demand zone, but it's still going to be a valid confluence. And what do you guys notice, right? That 1 hour demand just so happens to sit right at that daily zone of support that we just discussed. So this is going to be like the first area that I'm even looking to take any kind of trade to the long side here on the SPY. It's going to be back down around 613. Why 613, Josh? Because that is going to be the next area that I have some key areas of support and demand. And I trade off key zones. I don't trade off random areas. I trade off key zones. So the next key zones are down at 613. So I have to wait for price to get back down to 613 on the SPY before I look to take a trade. So we got some time to wait, right? We got some time to wait. And that's why I don't think I'm going to be really trading the SPY and the Qs today, right? I'm looking at ES and NQ, number one. And then we have some individual stocks that look really good today as well. But that's what we have for the SPY. So maybe nothing today, but coming into tomorrow, if we see the SPY down at 613, I think that's going to be a great area that we see a nice bounce. And that's going to be an area that I'm looking to play calls here on the SPY, right? It's going to be the same thing with QQQ. Right? Again, QQQ are at all-time highs, right? You look left on the daily, there's nothing there. So again, we're going to have a lot of limited zones and analysis that we can do. So it's going to be pretty limited as far as how many opportunities and how many trades do we see properly setting up. Probably not a lot on the SPY and the Qs, but again, there's some individual stocks that look really good. Right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Qs. What do we have on the daily? Well, the only thing that we really see on the daily that's the closest to where price currently is that daily demand zone, right? That was created last Wednesday. We had the rally base rally, right? So you see that nice little demand that was created there on Wednesday. So there's going to be some daily demand, right? But again, that's still pretty far to the downside. Are we going to get there today? I doubt it. So now we just go right into our lower time frames. Now we're going to go into a 4-hour time frame, and we're going to look for some 4-hour demand to the downside. Do we have any 4-hour demand? We do. We have that 4-hour demand zone sitting down there. We have this nice little rally base rally formation. Right, so you can go ahead and mark up that 4-hour demand. That's inside of your daily demand. And all of this is back down around like 540. So you're starting to notice that we have some stuff going on down around this 540 level, right? But again, we're at 551. So we need to see the Qs come down 10 points before we even get into some of that daily demand. Is that going to happen today? Probably not, right? But maybe tomorrow or Wednesday, if we see the Qs coming down into that daily demand zone, we know we have some 4-hour demand sitting inside of the daily as well. And if you look left, you do have that prior area of resistance that was created around those all-time highs, right? So old resistance turns what? New support. Where's that support level at? It's down between 539.02 to 540, right? So we have that 539 to 540 zone of support, right? We can all see that it was prior all-time high resistance, new support. We see we have daily demand down there around 540. And then we do have some 4-hour demand sitting down around 540 as well. So what do you notice about the Qs? There's a lot going on down at 540, right? You have that daily zone of support. You have that daily zone of demand. And you have that 4-hour zone of demand as well. And you see where all of those zones overlap? That's where all of our zones overlap. Support, 2 zones of demand. Right at this 539 to 540 level. This is going to be the next best A-plus level to get long off of. If you're looking for a great low-risk, high-reward trade, right, where you can actually see some follow-through, this is going to be the next best A-plus area to take calls and get long here on QQQ, right? But again, that's 10 more points to the downside. Probably not going to set up today, but should be on watch for tomorrow and the rest of this week. Do we have anything on a 1-hour time frame? Yeah, no, we don't. We do have the remaining 1-hour demand from Thursday session. So we did come down. We hit about 50% of that 1-hour demand on Friday, and we had a really nice pop to the upside. And this is why I want to stress that you guys get really, really good at finding multiple time frame zones of supply and demand, because we see these levels respected beautifully. So if you're new to trading, if you don't understand supply and demand concepts, go click the link in my profile on TikTok, and you'll see I have a lot of free trainings. I actually give away a supply and demand training for free. So you guys can go grab that training if you want. It's about an hour long, but it's going to teach you these concepts. So you guys can come in and find these zones of supply and demand. And it's really important to find these zones because look at that zone from Thursday. That was a beautiful rally, base rally formation. Price comes down Friday. We hit some of those unfilled orders, and then we pop to the upside. You see how beautiful that was? We come down and hit it to the penny and then instantaneously pop to the upside. These are going to be great areas that you want to trade off of. So if you need to learn how to find these zones, go grab that lesson. The link's in my profile on TikTok. All right. If you know how to do this, dial it in. So we do have some of this leftover 1-hour demand, right? We come down, we hit it on Friday, we pop out. So this is the remaining 1-hour demand where price has yet to hit, where price has yet to come. So this is still an area that I will consider looking for like a dip buy, right? So if price comes down into the remaining 1-hour demand that we've been talking about, I'm looking for a dip buy where price comes down, hits the rest of those unfilled orders, and you get a quick reaction to the upside, and I can scalp that. Again, we just call that a dip buy. Come straight down to that level, hit those unfilled orders, pop, react to the upside, and just scalp that for a quick 2-to-1, 3-to-1 setup. That's going to be like the first trade that I see here on QQQ that I would take, would be that little dip buy off some of that remaining 1-hour demand. But other than that, there's really not a lot we have on the Qs. What else are we going to do here? I mean, you go to the daily, it's like there's no daily zones of support resistance. We got our closest daily zone of demand. We go into our 4-hour and our 1-hour time frame. There's just nothing else going on. So we have to be really, really, really patient with trading the SPY and the Qs today because we're just far off from a lot of these key zones that we want to be trading off of. All right? So that's what we got on the SPY and the Qs. But we're going to have some good opportunity on Boeing today. So let's talk about Boeing. Right, number one, right, we have daily supply, right? There's a daily supply candle sitting right here. So go ahead and mark that up on BA daily. It's the daily candle from June 11th. You're taking it from the high to the body. So there's going to be some daily supply. What else do we notice? There's a big gap here on Boeing. Big old daily gap. We just came up on Friday. We filled the gap, right? And we're hitting that daily supply. So I'm looking for puts. Why would I be looking for puts? Well, I would expect to see price hit some of those unfilled orders and see price drop to the downside off that supply zone. And again, the top of that gap is a resistance point. So again, anytime we come up and fill a gap, typically there's a really high probability chance that we get rejected off the top of that gap. So I have supply sitting up here, and I already know that when we fill gaps, we typically reject off the top of the gap, and I know that's a good short. So that's what I see on Boeing's daily. And so when I flip this down into a lower time frame, I have to get an idea of, could this thing set up today? So let's go ahead and flip Boeing into a 15-minute, and what do we see on Boeing right here in pre-market? Well, we are above the top of the gap, right? So the top of the gap was at 214. Price is currently trading above the top of the gap, but we still have yet to break above that daily supply zone. So this is how Boeing has to set up. Like, it has to set up the way I explain it. If it doesn't set up based on how I explain it, there's no trade. But if we see Boeing set up how I'm getting ready to explain it, I'm taking the short today. So it's got to do exactly this, and it's got to be perfect. Where we open, we fall out of supply. Where it's like we open and we drop. It's like, okay, cool. Supply's being validated. Supply's being respected. There's clearly some unfilled orders left over being filled. Prices dropping to the downside. And we see sellers stepping up to the plate and willing to get short off that daily supply zone, where we see a nice flush to the downside. That's the first thing we have to see. Nice flush with some fours. See sellers in control. Then we need to come back up and back test the top of the gap. So we would have to push back on up and back test the top of the gap at 214, and we would have to stay below it as intraday resistance, where we come up to 214 and we just can't get above it. That's the area that we get short. All right, we're not getting short up here. We're not getting short the second we fall out of supply. We're waiting for Boeing to fall to the downside. Fall out of supply, right, to the downside. Get back inside the gap. Come up and back test the top of the gap. Stay under it. Stay below 214 today. As long as we see that play out, and that's how Boeing's setting up, that's going to validate the short entry, and we're definitely taking puts today. Okay? Where to? Bottom of the gap. It's easy. Bottom of the gap is your main target. That's back down at 204. It's about $10 to the downside. So we already know this is going to be a really, really good low risk, high reward setup. Minimum 5-to-1 risk reward. Minimum 5-to-1 risk reward. So it looks really good. That's going to be Boeing for today, guys. All right. If you guys do have any questions on anything we talk about, just let me know. I'll answer the questions, but that's Boeing. What else? I think PLTR looks good today. Right? So take a look at PLTR. We had a really nice forceful drop there on Friday. Closed down about 10% to the downside. Really nice drop on up. And so the goal is identifying where we could get short if we're expecting more downside. Do I expect more downside on PLTR? I do. Why? Right? Just go ahead and look at Friday's candle alone. Just look at Friday's candle. We dropped 10%. That's a pretty big drop. Look at the increase in volume we had to the downside as well, right? We had a strong increase in volume, and we can see that majority of that volume was selling volume because we just moved down all day, and we had a really strong close, right, near the low a day. So it's a very, very strong move to the downside, and there's two different ways we could look to trade some of this continuation to the downside, right? The first way that we would trade this continuation to the downside is wait for price to get below Friday's close and low a day, right? So if we like gapped down today below Friday's low a day and close, and we come up and fill the gap from the gap down, then yeah, we would look for a continuation short, and we will look to short this to the downside because we're expecting a continuation move on down, right? But we're actually gapping up this morning. I know that because we're at 136. So we're not going to gap down. So we're not going to see this first type of setup present itself where we get that gap down on day two and then come up and fill the gap and flush, right? We're not going to see that setup because we're not gapping down. But what could we see, right? We can see a healthy retracement back up into some key levels and see the second leg to the downside, right? This is the first leg, that big day to the downside on Friday. That's your first leg down. We could see a retracement back into some overhead zones of supply resistance and then see the second leg short. So that's the objective. The objective is, okay, cool. We could see that that's a clear first leg to the downside. We could see that we could have a potential retracement, form a lower high, and then see that second leg drop, right? That's realistic. So now the objective is, where could we see the lower high form? Like, at what area is most realistic to see that lower high form before the second leg drop? So that's the goal. All right, so what are we going to do? We're going to look at some daily zones of potential support resistance. Do we have anything that we can do here on PLTR? Let's just clear the chart out completely, and let's just simply look at what we have here on PLTR. Right, I can see that we have a clear zone of support resistance right here between 136.01 to 137.12. I see that we came up to this level, tapped it a couple times, resistance, broke above it, boop, 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 held it as support. So I can see that this is going to be a decent little area that we can push back up into before seeing it top on out. So we do have a nice little zone of daily, right, support resistance. What else do we have? Do we have anything else? Any other key zones, key levels that we are seeing to the upside? No, not a whole lot. All right, so I would say that we're good on the daily. There's nothing really else to the upside. There's a couple other areas, but I want to go find some supply. Some like maybe 4-hour supply. So let's go into a 4-hour time frame on PLTR. Do we see anything on PLTR? 4-hour time frame. The only thing that we see on PLTR is what? Price this morning is coming back up to that daily zone between 136 and 137. And we're starting to retest it already as resistance. That's cool. We're already seeing that zone respected. Awesome. Do we have anything else on a 4-hour time frame? No. But what we can do is we can take a fib extension from that swing high, take it down to our swing low, and then drag that bad boy back up to our swing high. So that's what we can go ahead and do here on PLTR, is go ahead and throw a fib extension on this leg to the downside. Since we've already verified and validated that's a leg. That's a proper first leg to the downside. We could absolutely put a fib retracement on that leg down. And this will give us an idea of where we could see that lower high form before seeing the second leg to the downside, just utilizing that fib extension. So let's go ahead and put the fib extension up. Do we have anything else on a 4-hour time frame? No. What do we have on a 1-hour time frame? Do we have anything? Yeah, we do have some 1-hour supply from Friday. Check that out. We got some 1-hour supply sitting right here. We have a nice little rally base. Look at that nice big drop on off to the downside. Right, so we have some 1-hour supply. Check. We put a fib extension up on that leg down. Check. We got this daily zone of support resistance. Check. Cool. Anything else we see on a 1-hour time frame? Negative, Ghost Rider. Let's go finish this up on a 30 minutes, right? Do we have any 30-minute supply? We do. Right, we got that 30-minute inside of the hour. So let's go ahead and mark up our 30-minute zone of supply as well. Again, rally, base, decent little drop on off. And then do we have anything clean on a 15? We do. Look at that 15-minute supply right there. Wabam. So you see how we have a 4-hour zone. That's actually an hour zone. We have an hour zone, a 30-minute zone, and a 15-minute zone that all stack. And so where these zones start to overlap and stack, I know that's the best area to look to get short. And what else do I know or notice about those zones? Well, it's up against my 38.2 extension. So I already have some confluence, right? That suggests this is the best area to see that lower high form before seeing the second leg drop to the downside. So I've identified, right, the most realistic area that we could see that lower high form that we've been talking about, right around 140. Why would it be 140, Josh? Out of all levels, why 140 for that lower high to get short off of? Well, it's our 38.2 extension level. Check. We got 3 overlapping zones of supply. I've got 4 reasons that suggest 140 is going to be the area that we most likely top out before we start to see the next leg on down here on PLTR. So that's the game plan with PLTR. Let's wait to see if we get up to that 140 mark and see what price does. Do we hit all of that supply? Do we get rejected off that 38.2 extension? If we see good price action up here, that's going to be the area where we look to get short. And we're expecting to see another leg to the downside. All right. Where's your target going to be? Well, your target's pretty simple. Your main target's going to be back down up against Friday's low day and close. So you're down around like 130.70 is going to be your first target to the downside here on PLTR. And then what else did we have for today? Was it Tesla? Yeah, Tesla's already beaten up that demand zone. So we had some demand here on Tesla. We had right here some daily demand. We had some lower time frame demand sitting right there as well. But that demand zone, now that we look at it, it's been pretty beaten up here this morning, right? We already came down and hit that demand zone on Friday, got below it Friday, and now we're really beating that zone up. So I don't really like it the more I look at Tesla. The trade would have been on Friday off that demand overlap. It's been really beating that zone up ever since. I don't trust it. So nothing on Tesla, guys. But again, PLTR looks really good. We talked about what we have, what our expectations are. We picked it apart, identified the best of the best areas that we want to look to take trades off of. Now we just have to sit back and wait simply for price to get there and set up. That's it. So you guys are ready to rock with PLTR. We talked about Boeing, good potential with Boeing. And again, the SPY and the Qs. So you guys are all set, ready to rock. Oh, IWM. That was the last one. IWM. There's two things that I see, and I would entertain some puts on IWM today. So here's what you need to do with IWM. Go mark up your daily supply zone from February 26th of this year. So that February 26th candle, you're going to mark up that zone from high to body. That's going to mark up your daily supply zone here. All right. And then go down into a 4-hour time frame on IWM. All right. And so when we get down into a 4-hour time frame, go ahead and mark up your 4-hour supply zone that you can see right there. And that would be, again, that 4 a.m. candle from February 24th. So what do you start to notice when you look at this supply zone? Right? You got this little thin overlap. You see this really thin little sliver of overlap? That's where the 4-hour meets the daily. That little teeny little sliver right around 218.40 is that sliver between daily and 4-hour supply. That's going to be the best area to get short here on IWM. Is like literally that sliver at 218.40. So that's going to be the plan on IWM, right? Getting short at 218.40, keeping stops really tight above that daily supply zone. And we're just going to run this back down to bottom of supply. All right, so that's going to be the short plan. You're an IWM. Entries right around 218.40. Risking about 30 to 40 cents. Not a lot of risk. Target. We're going to just target to start the bottom end of that supply zone. You're talking a 7-to-1 risk reward, guys. A 7-to-1 risk reward. You get position to lose, I don't know, $200 on the trade. You can make $1,400 of profit, and you don't have to put on a lot of risk. Good trade plan, right? High probability outcome as well. We got the rest of that daily supply that's not been hit, right? We got some of that 4-hour supply that overlaps the daily. And we know when we get these overlaps, these are the best areas to get in. I want to show you guys an example. Go look at Tesla, right? Tesla's a really fucking good example of finding those overlaps when you're doing your supply and demand analysis. All right, so take a look at Tesla on Friday. We have this daily zone of demand, right? And we have this 4-hour zone of demand. Do you guys notice that little sliver between the 4-hour and the daily demand? You see that little green sliver right there? Do you see how price came down, hit that sliver, and then popped? You see this happen a lot. Right? It's not 100% of the time. Nothing in the market is 100%. But a lot of the times when you see multiple zones of demand or supply overlap and you get those little slivers, when price revisits it, you get reactions. You get pops. And most of the time, really nice moves. Look at Tesla. It's a prime example of this on Friday. And you see this all the time. Right? So that's exactly what we have on IWM. We have this little sliver, right? between those multiple time frame zones of supply. I know that's going to be the best area to get short once price revisits for a nice drop to the downside. That's why I'm going to take the trade, because I know 70 to 80% of the time that trade is going to work, right? And we see it happen all the time. We just saw it Friday with Tesla. So that's the reason why I'm looking to get short there in IWM. All right, it's a high probability setup. And there we are good to go. All right, so you guys got any questions about anything we talked about? Want to make sure you guys are clear. Want to make sure you guys are 100% dialed in. And then we do have some time to look at some individual stocks with you guys as well. ESNQ. Yeah, so here's what we have on ESNQ. All right, start on the daily time frame. And this is speed round. All right, this is our speed round here. I'm going to give you 2 daily zones of resistance, and you got 1 daily zone of supply. And that's what you really have to work with today here on ES. So here is your daily supply zone on ES. It is between 62.40.75 to 62.64. So it's a really, really big daily supply zone. But we have the drop, base, drop. So there is your daily supply from February 20th. All right. Then we have a daily zone of resistance between 62.51 to 62.54. So you get that nice little 3-point zone of resistance. Then your next daily zone of resistance to the upside is between 62.62.25 to 62.66.75. Right, so you have 2 zones of daily resistance, and you got that big daily zone of supply. Right, now let's go ahead and take ES down into a lower time frame. All right, what do we see here on ES? Well, ES came right up into, right, that daily zone of resistance that's inside of that supply, and we dropped. Came back up, hit that zone of resistance, failed to break above it, still inside of that supply, we've dropped. So that's really what we have with ES today, right? If we fail to break that first zone of resistance, we know we're still inside of daily supply, and we could see price fall out of daily supply and get, rejected off that daily zone of resistance at the same time. So that's the plan. I'm actually short on the ES right now. Myself. I'm actually short here on ES. I took the trade right off that zone. Good price action. Stops above pre-market high. I'm looking to see if price can continue to fade and fall out of supply, off resistance, back down into our next demand zone. I'm actually short 1 ES contract right now, and my cost basis is at 62.49.50. So I got an entry right off that zone inside of supply, and I'm in profit a little bit. But again, this is something where I'm expecting a little bit more follow through based on the analysis that we've done. So that's like the first idea. As long as the SPY stays below that zone, we could see price fall to the downside, right? But if we see ES come back up and break this zone, we want to be hands off until we get up to that next daily zone of resistance, right? And that daily zone of resistance is between, again, 62.62.25 to 62.66.75, right? And we also know that that daily zone of resistance overlaps supply. So you see that little sliver right there? That's the area where supply meets resistance. So that's going to be the next best area to get short, is where that daily zone of resistance meets that daily zone of supply, and you get those zone overlaps right there, right? But I already saw some overlap, so I took a trade here on ES. We had that daily zone of resistance inside of that daily zone of supply. I took the short, and I'm looking to see if price can fade and fall to the downside. Right, but if we, again, do break this zone, we put in a higher high, I get stopped out of my trade. I'm running about 5 points of total risk, and I'm going to wait for ES to get up around 62.64 before I look for the next short opportunity. All right, let's say we do continue to fade and fall to the downside. Where am I looking to take profit? I'm looking to take some profit down inside of this little 1 hour demand zone that we have. All right, so you see how we have this nice little rally, base rally from Friday. there's going to be 1 hour demand down around 62.20. So my target is 62.20 to the short side here on ES. That's where I'm looking to get out. And then I'm actually looking to get long on ES down there because that's a really great area to look to get long off of. Why is 62.20 a good area on ES to get long? Well, you have that hour demand, number one. Number two, you got this daily zone of support, right? There's a daily zone of support down here between 62.17 to 62.20.50. Right, so you got this really nice daily zone of support, number one. Number two, you got some clear 1 hour demand. And you see how those two areas overlap? That's why I'm looking to, number one, get out of my short for profit down there. And I'm also looking to play calls and get long because we do have some zone overlap down around that 62.20. That's ES. You guys know where I'm looking to get long. And I'm also currently short right now. Next short is going to be up around that top in that supply zone where we have some of that resistance as well. And then if we go look at NQ, there wasn't really a lot that popped off with NQ this morning. There just wasn't a lot that stood out. There's a couple areas that you want to keep on watch, though, with NQ. All right. So you have daily support, 1 hour demand sitting right around 22.822. So right around this 22.822 level on NQ, you got a daily zone of support. You have 1 hour demand. So that's the first area that I'm looking to get long on NQ. We come down, hit that daily zone of support. We hit that 1 hour demand zone. I'm looking to play calls, or not play calls. I'm looking to get long off that 1 hour demand and that daily support zone and looking for a nice little pop. If we do not pop off that first zone to the downside, right, and we proceed to fall lower, that's fine. There's another really good area to the downside that I would look to get long. We have another daily zone of support to the downside, and we have this 1 hour zone of demand that also just so happens to line up with that daily zone of support, right? So if we do not hold that top zone of demand and that top zone of support, I'm going to be hands off until we get down around 22.735 on NQ. 22.735 would be the next area that I look to play long and get long there on NQ. And again, it's because we have a really good daily zone of support and we have that 1 hour demand zone as well there on NQ. That's it, guys. Pretty simple stuff. Pretty simple stuff. Pete says he lost 2K on his advice last week. Well, number one, I'm sorry to hear that you lost money in the market. Number two is I don't give advice. I simply educate you guys, and I always stress to go do your own due diligence, build your own plans, establish your own conviction, right? And if you see a reason to take a trade, take it. But just because someone, and me and everybody else on this app, just because someone else is convicted and they see a great trade doesn't mean you should take it, right? Because you don't understand the reasoning for the trade. You are not convicted. You don't have the skills. Maybe you're really bad at managing a risk. Maybe you didn't even have the right plan built. I don't know. There's so many variables. That's why I stress, have your own conviction, do your own due diligence, build your own confidence in the trade like I'm doing. Like I take all these trades. My students take a lot of these trades as well because they're confident, they're convicted. And a lot of our students are making a lot of cash, right? A lot of profits. So do your own due diligence, build your own plans, and you have to be good at managing your trades as well. And you have to be disciplined to follow your plan and stop out when you say you're going to stop out and understand the trade and understand why the stops are the stop in the first place. There's still a lot that you guys have to go do before taking these trades. So I'm not saying go out here and take these. I'm teaching you guys how to do this analysis. I'm teaching you guys my methodology to trading so you can learn these skills, take these skills, apply these skills, and actually start to see really good trades that set up based on this methodology that I teach you guys. Higher time frame zoning of support resistance, multiple time frame zoning of supply demand with confluence, right? And you see 70 to 80% of the time, these trade ideas that we talk about, these game plans, they play out. They're well respected. Not every trade is going to work, but a majority of them do. But that's why you still need to go build your own plan, get positioned correctly, understand what your risk is going to be on the trade. There's still more work that you guys got to do. 100%. You just got to ask questions. So if you're new and you don't understand some of the things that we're talking about, you just have to ask those questions like, yo, you made this comment, you said this word, what does this mean? And I'm happy to explain it to you. Do I also look at fair value gaps? Yep. Yeah, so that's one of my confluences. So my top confluences are going to be fib extensions, fib retracements, going to be fair value gaps as well. Trend lines, I do run trend lines as another confluence. RSI divergence is another confluence, price action. But yeah, fair value gaps is something that I do look at, and I utilize that as a confluence to take a trade. Jared says, watch his videos. Yeah, watch his videos. Like, look at Jared, for example. Jared watched my free trainings over the past, couple months, Jared? And you said your win percentage went from a 20% to like, 70? And that's just watching the trainings, applying this shit, all right, but still doing your own due diligence. Still identifying trades that you see, building your plans, managing risk based on how much you're even allowed the risk on a trade in the first place. You still have a good system, you're following it, but you've been able to sharpen those skills and see a lot better trades at better levels. That's what it comes down to. It's like, learn these skills, implement these skills, but there's still work that you guys have to do, right, in order to really dial these things in to be a good, profitable trader. Is all of this in my free course? It is. Yeah. So this entire process, this entire breakdown, my entire method to trading, it's in the free course. If you guys want the free course, the link's in my profile. Go grab it. I think we have like 40 seats left for the free course before I'm like, no more free course. But yeah, it's there. And you guys get the free community as well. So if you guys like have questions about anything you've watched in the course, you can follow up with that in the community as well. I have been watching the free trainings and I went from always losing to an 80% win rate. That's what's up. That's not the first time I've heard that. I mean, you have Jared going from 20% to 70%, just implementing what he's learned from the trainings. Dehandra went from losing all the time to seeing 80% wins. And you do see that, guys, right? You really do. Like, once you dial in this method of finding high probability zones of support resistance and supply and demand, and then you just start only taking trades off those zones, you're going to notice a really good win percentage on your trades. Because 70 to 80% of the time, we make moves off of these levels. And that move that it makes is the move that we capitalize on. It's the move that we profit on. So it's just find the levels, find the zones, wait for price to get there, and then start looking to take trades. And you see it all the time. You guys can fact check me every fucking day. I give you guys the zones. I give you guys the levels. I literally build the plans and hand them to you on a silver platter. You can go back at the end of the day and validate my method of trading and see, shit, 70 to 80% of the time, those plans play out from zone to zone. And you see that happen all the time. And that's going to build confidence that, hey, I need to learn this. I need to dial this in because shit, I could just take trades off these zones and naturally just be right 70% of the time. Why wouldn't you want to learn this? Makes no sense. Stop learning the indicators. Stop learning all the BS. Learn this stuff first. Then go back and learn all the indicators and whatnot. All right? I promise, if you just dial these few things in, you could be very, very profitable at the end of this year. And again, we see it all the time. Look at Tesla. Come down. Hit the overlap. It pops. AMD, we come up, hit supply. We drop, Right? It's not a coincidence, guys. It's not a coincidence that you see this happen all the freaking time, right? It's how real profitable traders trade, right? Hedge funds, banks, institutions, guys, they don't trade off indicators. They don't trade bull flags and bear flags. So why are you? Seriously, ask yourself that question. If you're a newer trader, you're considered a retail trader, right? We're retail traders. And then you have smart money. You have banks, institutions, hedge fund. You have Wall Street players. You got guys and girls that are trading with millions of bucks, money that actually moves the market. So ask yourself that question. How do they trade? Wall Street players, how do they trade? Do you think they're trading 9 EMA, 20 EMA crosses? No. Do you think they're analyzing bull flags and bear flags and trading retail formations? No. So why are you guys learning to trade that way? Because that's what everybody does. So if you want to be successful, do the opposite of what everybody does. Right? Because 95% of traders fail, right? But yet 95% of retail traders go learn how to trade off indicators and bull flags and bear flags, but they fail. So why are you learning that stuff? Because that's what people teach. That's what sells. It's sexy. This stuff ain't sexy, but it works. Do you want sexy or do you want something that works, that produces profits? Like, seriously, that's a question. Do you guys want to learn the sexy stuff and be a part of the 95% that fail? Or do you guys want to learn the non-sexy stuff, the stuff that actually works, that actually grows your account, that produces profit? What do you guys want? It's a pretty simple question. And if anybody says, I want to learn bull flags and bear flags, I'm banning you. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. But seriously, like, really start to shift your mindset a little bit, right? You already know 95% of traders fail. So what do 95% of traders do? You see what they do. You see what all these other coaches teach. Bull flags, bear flags, this indicator, that indicator. That's what everybody teaches. It's sexy. But yet 95% of traders fail. Just stop learning that stuff. Learn how the smart money trades. Learn how Wall Street trades, right? Start trading like them, and you'll start to see success like them. And again, I'm just speaking from experience. 3 years, my first 3 years, I've been trading for 10 years, guys. My first 3 years, I did the indicators, the bull flags, the bear flags. I did all that. Do you think I made money my first 3 years? No. When did I start making money? When I started to shift my mindset, number one, started working on the mindset of trading, number one. But then when I really started to take a step back and simplify it and ask myself, again, how are the Wall Street players trading? They're not trading, off the stochastic fast indicator. So why am I? And I had to have that, just that moment, that aha moment of I'm just going about it the completely wrong way. I'm going about it like 95% of other traders go about it, and they fail. So I'm setting myself up for failure. So I need to do the complete opposite of what they're doing if I want to be successful. Kevin nailed a short on MES, 6 contracts, beautiful risk. What'd you get this morning, Kevin? You lock in some profits? Yeah, nice, man. You got some linked up accounts too. Nice little 400 buckaroosies on the day. Let's get it, bro. What a great way to start your day, man, with some profits. I love it. But anyway, guys, I really want you to start shifting your mindset. You're here for a reason because you're interested in trading. You want to learn the skills of trading. Maybe you've been trading and you're stuck. Right? Well, I'm here to help you get unstuck. That's it. What I say is not sexy, may not be what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear. And I do that because I want to see you guys win. I'm not here to sell you a course because it sounds really good. I'm not here to sell you on anything because it's really sexy. I'm here to set fucking expectations. Right? I'm here to point you guys in the right direction so you guys can actually put yourself in a position to win, to make money, guys. So just do it. It works. Make sure you put the right number in. If you signed up, yeah, make sure you put the right number in. Because, yeah, it'll send you a link to the training. It'll text you a link to the training. Don, what's up, buddy? Good morning. But, yeah, a couple things, guys. We still have 40-ish seats for the free course community. Links in my profile on TikTok. So if you click it, you'll see that big button that says free course community. You guys can grab that. If you guys are wondering how we find zones of supply and demand and support resistance, I give those 2 trainings away for free. So you'll see that big button that says free trainings. If you guys want to go get the supply and demand training, you guys can go get it. The support resistance trainings there as well, so you guys can tap into that. But I want you guys to learn this stuff. And then I want you guys to start to implement and apply this and get really, really good at it. If you get really, really good at this, it's going to make the rest of your trading like 10 times easier. Oh, man. I am sore today. You know you're getting really old when you go down a water slide and you wake up the next morning like sore and you're only 32. You know you're getting real fucking old. But if you guys do have any questions, if you guys are trying to grab the trainings like King Abyss said and you didn't get it, just shoot me a DM on TikTok and we'll figure it out. I'll get you guys a link to the training. But again, the link's in the profile. It's really, really easy to go grab those trainings. Literally just go to my TikTok profile. You see that big Linktree link? Just click that big Linktree link, right? You grab the free trading course community. We have our 10-step to profitable trading, a free training. Tap into that. It's good stuff. And then those 2 trading lessons on supply and demand, support resistance. Those 3 are right there. Just go grab them and start to level up your trading, guys. All right, but stay blessed. Enjoy the rest of your day on TikTok. I'll see you back here Wednesday morning. But for now, we are wrapping up our session. Everybody else in the mentorship, let me get that Zoom fired up. And we will be ready to rock and roll. I will see you guys in the Zoom in a couple seconds.